Okay, so let me just be real for a second because I don't think I'm crazy here, even though I'm sure Robbie thinks I am. I'm Lydia, 27 years old, married to Robbie, who's 34. We've been together for 3 years, married for 2, and I thought we were good. Like, I genuinely thought things between us were solid. At least solid enough that stuff like my past wouldn't matter anymore. Apparently, I was wrong. I guess I'll start with a little context because you need to understand why this whole thing has me so twisted up. Before Robbie, I had a life. I dated, I went out, I had fun. I didn't think I was doing anything wild or out of the ordinary for someone in their 20s, especially before meeting the one, you know? And yeah, I've had boyfriends and maybe my body count is a little higher than average or whatever, but I don't see how any of that is supposed to matter now that we're married. I mean, isn't that the whole point of settling down? You stop keeping score on that stuff because it doesn't matter anymore. But here's the thing. Robbie didn't care about it at first, or at least he never acted like he did. If anything, he made me feel like it was just part of what made me. Me. He always said he loved how independent and confident I was, and how I wasn't afraid to live my life. And I believed him. I mean, we wouldn't have gotten married if I thought he was secretly judging me the whole time, right? So imagine my shock when this all started blowing up over a stupid joke at a family dinner. Let me set the scene for you. It's Robbie's brother, Scott, who's the same age as him, sitting across from me at the table with his wife, who's one of those quiet, perfect homemaker types. The kind of woman who never speaks out of turn and probably has no idea what it's like to have a real opinion. She's nice enough, but we're just different. Anyway, Scott cracks this joke about how Robbie must have had nerves of steel marrying a woman with Lydia's resume. He literally called it my resume, like I'm some job application or something. Everyone laughed, even Robbie. And at first, I laughed too because, honestly, what else was I supposed to do? But the more I thought about it, the more it started to feel like I was the punchline. I let it go that night because I didn't want to make a scene. But when we got home, I asked Robbie about it. I thought he'd apologize or at least tell me Scott was being a jerk and that he didn't mean anything by it. Instead, Robbie got all weird and defensive, like I was overreacting. He said, "It's just a joke, Lyd. You know Scott doesn't mean anything by it." And okay, maybe Scott didn't, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it than that. I tried to move on, I really did. I'm not the type to dwell on stuff like this. But then Robbie started acting different. I can't even explain it exactly, but it's like something shifted after that night. He wasn't as affectionate, and he stopped initiating conversations with me the way he used to. I'd catch him looking at me like he was trying to figure something out, and it drove me crazy because I couldn't tell what he was thinking. And now I'm starting to wonder if Scott's stupid joke planted some kind of seed in his head. Like, maybe he hadn't really thought about my past before, but now he's rethinking everything. The idea that Robbie might be reconsidering me, after all this time, makes me feel sick. At first, I told myself I was just being paranoid. I mean, Robbie isn't perfect either. He's older, and he's had his share of relationships, too. Sure, maybe his number isn't as high as mine, but does that really matter? I didn't think it did. And honestly, I didn't think Robbie did either. But now I'm not so sure. I thought things had mostly blown over after that dinner with Scott and his little comment. Sure, Robbie had been acting a little off, but I chalked it up to work stress or just one of those random funks people get into. I wasn't about to overthink it because, honestly, life's too short to obsess over something you can't control. Plus, I figured if Robbie had an issue, he'd bring it up. That's what grown-ups in a marriage do, right? At least, that's what I thought. One night, though, I walked into the living room and caught Robbie on his phone. He was sitting on the couch, earbuds in, scrolling through YouTube. Nothing weird about that. He's always watching random podcasts or clips, usually about sports or finance or whatever. So, I didn't think anything of it at first. I just went about my business, grabbing a drink from the kitchen and half watching him while I scrolled through Instagram. But then I noticed something. He wasn't laughing or reacting the way he usually does when he's watching something entertaining. He had this serious look on his face, like he was really thinking about whatever he was listening to. I didn't want to seem nosy, so I casually asked, "What are you watching?" thinking he'd give me some half-hearted answer about football stats or investing tips. He glanced up at me and shrugged. "Just a podcast," he said, his voice kind of flat. "About what?" I pressed, more curious now because of how weird he sounded. "Just relationships, I guess," he said, and then he took his earbuds out and changed the subject. "You hungry?" I was thinking of ordering something. I didn't push further because, honestly, I didn't think it mattered. Relationships? So what? Maybe he was watching something cheesy about how to keep the spark alive, or some guy talking about marriage tips. It didn't occur to me at the time that he might have been watching something about my past. It wasn't until later that night, when I went to use his phone to check something, that I saw his YouTube history. The titles of the videos were all there. Does body count matter in relationships? Men's honest thoughts on high body counts. Why your wife's past could affect your future. My stomach dropped a little. It's not like I did anything wrong. Those were just stupid videos by random guys with too much time on their hands. But still, it felt off. I closed the app quickly, like I hadn't seen anything, and told myself I was overreacting. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Robbie was still hung up on something, and I wasn't sure what to do about it. A few days later, he mentioned that his friend Dan had invited him out for drinks. Apparently, it was some couples thing. Dan and his wife, this other guy Robbie works with, and his girlfriend, and a couple of other people from their circle. Normally, Robbie would tell me about these things, and it'd be assumed we'd both go. But this time he said, "I might stop by after work, it's nothing major." I blinked at him, confused. "Oh, okay, so we're going?" Robbie hesitated, scratching the back of his neck. I wasn't sure if you'd want to. I mean, it's kind of last minute." I laughed. Why wouldn't I want to? I love Dan and Emily, and I haven't seen them in forever. "We're going?" I said it so casually, I didn't even realize how awkward he looked about it. He didn't argue, though, so that was that. When we got there, things felt normal enough at first. I was chatting with Emily, catching up on all the little things. Her kids, her work, her plans for the holidays. Robbie was over at the bar with Dan and a couple of the other guys, laughing about something. Everything felt easy and familiar, like it always does when we're out with this group. I almost forgot about all the weirdness from the past week. But then, during dinner, the vibe shifted. Dan made some offhand comment about how you never really know a person until you've been with them for a while. It was one of those generic relationship observations that probably wasn't meant to mean anything. But then his wife, Emily, kind of laughed and said, "Yeah, especially when you learn things about their past. Like, oh, you didn't mention that little detail before we got married." It was a joke, just a harmless, silly comment, but I felt the air around the table change, just slightly. I glanced at Robbie, and he wasn't laughing. He was looking at his drink, his jaw tight, like he was trying not to react. I tried to play it cool. "Guess that's why they say honesty is the best policy, right?" I said with a little laugh, hoping to lighten the mood. But the conversation had already moved on, and nobody seemed to notice how tense Robbie looked. Nobody, except me. The rest of the night was fine, I guess. We laughed, we drank, we talked about nothing important, but something about Robbie's energy felt different, like he wasn't all there, like he was stuck in his head. And on the drive home, he was quieter than usual. "Did you have fun?" I asked, trying to break the silence. "Yeah, it was fine," he said, staring out the window. "Fine." That was all he said. And I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe he wasn't talking about the night itself, but about us. The tension had been building, and I could feel it even though Robbie wasn't saying much. He's not the kind of guy to explode or throw accusations around. He's more of the type to let things stew until it finally bubbles over. And apparently, this was one of those times. It started with something innocent, or at least, I thought it was innocent. Robbie and I were sitting on the couch, and I was scrolling through my phone, half watching a show. I guess I wasn't paying much attention to him, because the next thing I know, he's asking, "Why do you even still have social media?" I blinked at him, confused. "What do you mean? I mean, what do you even need it for? You're not posting much, and you're not an influencer or anything," he said, his tone neutral but probing. I shrugged. I don't know, to keep up with people? See what my friends are up to? It's not that deep, Robbie. He didn't look convinced. Yeah, but it feels like something you were more into before we got married. Why are you still on it all the time? I rolled my eyes because, honestly, it felt like he was making a big deal out of nothing. What's the problem, though? It's not like I'm doing anything shady. He tilted his head slightly. I didn't say you were, but why are you getting defensive? I'm not defensive, I snapped, which, looking back, probably made me sound exactly that. It's just weird you're bringing this up now. I've always had social media. You didn't care before, so why does it matter now? Robbie leaned back against the couch, crossing his arms. I don't know. Maybe I'm just curious. You spend a lot of time on your phone, and it feels like you're more, I don't know, invested in it than you are in us sometimes. I laughed, but it came out forced. That's ridiculous. You're acting like I'm out here living a double life or something. Then swap phones with me, he said casually, like it was no big deal. I froze for a second. Not because I had anything to hide, at least not in my mind, but because the request felt invasive. Why? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. Why not? He countered. If it's no big deal, then it shouldn't be a problem. I hesitated, but then I handed him my phone. Fine, go ahead, I've got nothing to hide. He took it, and for a moment, I thought it was going to be fine. He started scrolling through my apps, and I didn't think much of it. But then he paused. Why do you still have Snapchat? I frowned. What do you mean? Everyone has Snapchat. Not really, he said, giving me a pointed look. I haven't touched that app in years. Why do you need it? I don't need it, I said, rolling my eyes again. It's just there, I barely even use it. He didn't look convinced, but he moved on. Next, he opened Instagram. I felt my stomach tighten just a little because I knew he was about to see my DMs. And while I hadn't done anything wrong exactly, I wasn't sure how he was going to take it. Sure enough, he went straight to my messages. At first, he didn't say anything. He just scrolled. But then he stopped and turned the phone toward me. Who's this? I glanced at the screen. It was some guy who DM'd me a while back, saying something like, Hey, you're gorgeous. Would love to get to know you better. I'd replied, but only with a thanks and some light chit-chat. Nothing serious. I don't even know him, I said quickly. It's just some random guy. Then why are you responding? Robbie asked, his tone sharper now. I was just being nice, I said, waving it off. It's not like I was flirting with him. He stared at me like I'd just said something crazy. You think this is okay? Some guy slides into your DMs and instead of ignoring him, you're giving him attention? That's not being nice, Lydia. That's crossing a line. It's not crossing a line, I shot back, my voice rising. I didn't do anything wrong. It's not like I went out and met up with him or something. That's not the point, he said, his voice low and steady, which somehow made it worse. The point is you're married. You shouldn't be entertaining random guys like this, even if it's just online. What do you think this looks like to me? It looks like you're overreacting, I said, crossing my arms. It's just harmless DMs. Everyone does it. Everyone? He repeated, his tone cold now. Do you think I'm out here chatting with random women? Because I'm not. You know why? Because I respect you. And I thought you respected me. That hit a nerve. I do respect you. This has nothing to do with respect. It's just social media. It's not that serious. Not that serious, he said, shaking his head. You don't get it, do you? This isn't just about some messages. It's about what it says about you. About us. You're acting like you're still single, like none of this even matters to you. That's not fair, I said, feeling my face heat up. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's not like I cheated on you. He looked at me, his expression unreadable. You think this isn't cheating? Maybe not in the physical sense, but emotionally? It sure feels like it. And the fact that you can't even see that. He trailed off, shaking his head again. I don't know what to do with this, Lydia. I wanted to argue, to explain that he was making a mountain out of a molehill, but the words wouldn't come. For the first time in our marriage, I didn't know how to make him see my side. And deep down, I was starting to wonder if maybe he didn't want to see it. Robbie stormed out of the room in silence, but I could feel the heat of his anger even after he was gone. I sat there, my chest tight and my mind racing, trying to figure out what had just happened. It wasn't like I was cheating on him. Not physically, not emotionally, not in any way that actually mattered. Sure, I'd responded to a few DMs, but who doesn't? It's not a big deal, right? At least that's what I kept telling myself. Then I realized he'd taken my phone with him. "Robbie?" I called out, trying to keep my voice calm, but there was no answer. My stomach churned as I got up and went to the door, hesitating before stepping into the hallway. I could hear him in the kitchen, pacing. My gut told me I should just stay put, let him cool off, but before I could decide what to do, I heard his voice. "You've got to be kidding me," he said, his tone dripping with disbelief. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to make my heart drop. "Of course. What now?" I said as I walked into the kitchen, trying to sound more annoyed than nervous. Robbie turned to me, holding up my phone with the screen facing me. On it was the Tinder app, tucked away in one of those random folders I barely even looked at. I didn't even remember it was there, but it was, and there was no denying it now. "Are you serious?" he said, his voice rising. "Tinder? Really, Lydia? You actually thought I wouldn't find this?" I opened my mouth to explain, but before I could, he started laughing. Not the kind of laugh that comes from something funny, but the kind that comes when someone's so angry they don't know what else to do. "You're so stupid," he said, shaking his head. "You really thought you could hide this? All I had to do was search your phone, Lydia. That's it. You didn't even bother to delete it properly." "Don't call me stupid," I snapped, more out of reflex than anything else. My voice was shaky, but I tried to sound firm. "It's not what you think." "Oh, it's not?" he said, still laughing. "Then what is it? Enlighten me, because I'm dying to know why my wife has a freaking dating app on her phone." "I'm not even active on it," I said quickly. "I forgot it was there. I haven't used it since before we got married." He stared at me, his face a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Cut it out, Lydia. Just stop. Do you think I'm that stupid? You're on Tinder, you're chatting with random guys on Instagram, and you think you can stand there and tell me this doesn't mean anything? I swear, Robbie, I'm not doing anything. I'm not cheating on you." He slammed the phone down on the counter, making me jump. "You might as well be. Do you even hear yourself right now? Do you have any idea how this looks? How this makes me feel?" His voice cracked slightly on the last word, but he quickly covered it with more anger. "This isn't just about the app, Lydia. It's about you. The fact that I can't trust you at all now. How am I supposed to believe anything you say?" "You don't have to believe me," I said, my own voice rising. "But I'm telling you the truth. I didn't even think about that app. It's not like I'm out meeting guys or anything." "Oh, please," he said, shaking his head and laughing bitterly. "You think that makes it better? That you weren't physically cheating? What do you even call this, Lydia? Why are you still seeking attention from other guys? What's the point? Am I not enough for you?" His words stung, but instead of addressing them, I zeroed in on the one thing that I felt I could defend myself against. "I'm not seeking attention. It's not like that. You're overreacting." "Overreacting?" he repeated, his eyes wide with disbelief. "You're unbelievable. You sit here and tell me I'm overacting while I'm finding dating apps and DMs to other guys on your phone? You've completely lost me, Lydia. I don't even know who you are anymore." "That's not fair," I said, my voice cracking. "I'm the same person I've always been." "And that's the problem," he shouted. "You haven't changed at all. You're still acting like you're single, like none of this matters, like I don't matter. What the hell was I thinking, marrying someone who can't even leave her past behind?" The words hit me like a slap. I wanted to argue, to explain, to somehow convince him that he was wrong about me. But the truth was, I didn't have a good answer. I'd never really thought about it that way before. I'd always figured that as long as I wasn't outright cheating, everything was fine. But to Robbie, it clearly wasn't. He shook his head and ran a hand through his hair, his anger giving way to something that looked more like exhaustion. "You know what? I'm done. I can't do this anymore." My stomach dropped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want a divorce," he said, his voice steady and cold. "This marriage is a joke. I can't trust you, and without trust, what's the point?" "You don't mean that," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I do," he said, his eyes locking with mine. "And you know what the saddest part is? I don't even think you care. Not really. You're not upset because you hurt me. You're upset because you got caught." "That's not true," I said, tears welling up in my eyes. "I do care, Robbie. I love you." "Don't," he said, holding up a hand to stop me. "Don't say that, because if you really loved me, you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't be on Tinder, you wouldn't be talking to other guys, and you wouldn't be standing here trying to justify it." I wanted to argue, to fight for our marriage, but the look in his eyes told me it was over. He was done. And maybe, deep down, I knew he had every right to be. The next few days were a blur. Robbie stayed at a friend's place while I stayed home, trying to process what had happened. He came back a week later, but only to pack his things. We didn't argue or try to hash things out. There was nothing left to say. Our divorce was finalized within a few months. It was quick, clean, and devastating in its finality. Robbie didn't fight for the house or try to make things messy. He just wanted to move on, and I couldn't blame him. I still think about him sometimes, about the life we could have had if I'd been different. If I'd been honest with myself about what I really wanted, or if I'd been willing to change. But I wasn't. And now it's too late. In the end, it wasn't just Robbie reconsidering my past that ruined our marriage. It was me, refusing to let go of the person I used to be, even when it cost me the person I claimed to love the most. Robbie didn't say another word when he left the room, but I knew he was still angry. I stayed on the couch, arms crossed, fuming, not at myself, but at him. I mean, yeah, he was mad about the DMs, but the way he spoke to me, like I was some teenager who got caught sneaking out, that wasn't okay. It wasn't fair. I was his wife, not some criminal. The least he could do was hear me out. A few minutes passed, then a few more. It was too quiet, and that's when it hit me. He still had my phone. My stomach dropped. I thought about getting up to find him, but I hesitated. Maybe it was better to let him cool off. That's what I told myself anyway, though deep down I had this gnawing sense of dread. Then I heard his voice from the hallway. He wasn't yelling exactly. It was worse. He was laughing. This low, bitter laugh that made my skin crawl. A second later, he walked back into the room, holding my phone up like it was evidence in a courtroom. "Tinder, Lydia?" he said, his voice dripping with disbelief. "Really? You thought you could just hide this in some folder like I wouldn't find it?" I froze. My mouth opened, but no words came out. He held the phone out toward me, shaking it slightly for emphasis. "You know, all I had to do was search Tinder in your apps, right? Like, you couldn't even hide it properly. How stupid do you think I am?" That word, stupid, cut through me like a knife. My face burned with a mix of embarrassment and anger, but I latched onto it, ignoring everything else he'd said. "Did you just call me stupid?" I snapped, my voice shaking. Robbie blinked at me, then let out another harsh laugh. "That's what you're focused on? Not the fact that you have a dating app on your phone, but the fact that I called you stupid? Unbelievable." "I'm not even using it," I shot back, my voice rising. "It's just there. I forgot about it." "Oh, you forgot about it?" he said, his voice mocking. "Sure, because people just forget they have Tinder installed. That makes total sense." "I'm serious, Robbie," I said, my voice almost pleading now. "I haven't touched it in forever. Look at the app. There's nothing on there. No messages, no matches. It's just there." But he wasn't listening. He tossed my phone onto the coffee table and ran his hands through his hair, pacing the room like he was trying to keep himself from exploding. "You really don't get it, do you? It doesn't matter if you were active on it or not. The fact that it's even on your phone tells me everything I need to know." "That's not fair," I said, my voice trembling. "I'm not cheating on you. I never have." "Cut it out, Lydia," he snapped, turning to face me. "You think I'm going to believe anything you say now? You've lied to my face for God knows how long. You've been entertaining other guys in your DMs, and now I find out you've got Tinder tucked away like some dirty little secret. And you expect me to just, what? Trust you?" "I'm telling the truth," I said, tears starting to sting my eyes. "I swear, Robbie, I wasn't doing anything. I just—" "Stop," he said, his voice cold. "Just stop. I can't do this anymore. I can't sit here and listen to you spin this into something it's not. Do you even realize how humiliating this is for me? I've been defending you, us, to everyone. I've ignored the jokes, the comments, all of it, because I believed you were better than what people said. But now I see I was the idiot." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, to make him understand, but I knew it wouldn't matter. He'd already made up his mind. And the worst part was, I couldn't really blame him. Not entirely. For a while, we just stood there, staring at each other. The silence was heavy, suffocating. Finally, Robbie spoke again, his voice calm but cold. "I'm done, Lydia. I can't do this anymore. I don't even know who you are." What are you saying?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "I'm saying I want a divorce," he said, his eyes locking with mine. "You can keep trying to justify this to yourself, but I'm not sticking around to watch you destroy whatever's left of this marriage. It's over." The divorce was quick, but it wasn't clean. Robbie didn't want to fight over anything, he just wanted out. He let me keep the apartment, mostly because he didn't want to deal with the hassle of moving my things. He left the furniture, the dishes, even the TV. All he took were his clothes and a few personal items. It was like he wanted to erase any trace of our life together as fast as possible. For a while, I told myself I'd be fine, that I didn't need him, and that I'd bounce back. But the reality hit me harder than I expected. Robbie had always been the steady one, the one who kept things grounded. Without him, everything felt chaotic. My friends, well, the ones I thought were my friends, started pulling away. Some of them sided with Robbie, while others just didn't want to deal with the drama. I was left with a handful of people who didn't really care one way or the other. Financially, I struggled. Robbie had been the one who handled most of the bills, and I didn't realize how much I relied on him until he was gone. My impulsive spending habits didn't help, and before I knew it, I was behind on rent and drowning in credit card debt. The stress was overwhelming, but I didn't know how to fix it. Socially, things weren't much better. People talk, and it didn't take long for word to spread about why Robbie and I split. Suddenly, I was that girl. The one who couldn't keep her marriage together. The one who still acted like she was single, even when she wasn't. It was humiliating. And Robbie? He moved on. Not right away, but eventually. I heard through mutual friends that he started dating someone new, a woman who, by all accounts, was nothing like me. She was quiet, down to earth, and most importantly, drama-free. Seeing photos of them together on social media felt like a punch to the gut, but I couldn't say I didn't deserve it. As for me, I tried to pick up the pieces. I deleted my social media accounts for a while, partly to avoid the judgment, and partly because I couldn't stand looking at them anymore. But it wasn't enough. No matter what I did, I couldn't escape the feeling that I'd ruined everything. That I'd let my impulsiveness, my need for attention, and my refusal to grow up cost me the one good thing I had. Looking back now, I wish I'd handled things differently. I wish I'd taken Robbie's concerns seriously instead of brushing them off. I wish I'd been honest with him and with myself. But it's too late for that now. All I can do is live with the choices I made and hope I don't make the same mistakes again. Because as much as I hate to admit it, Robbie was right. I wasn't ready for marriage. And by the time I realized that, it was too late to save us.